Camcorder Cameron here. Today I'm going to be watching Blade Runner, a movie directed by Ridley Scott in 1982. I'm returning to this movie today because I just finished reading Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick for the very first time. So I thought it would be great to return to this movie after having read the book. I want to compare the two and see how reading the book changes my perspective of the movie. Without further ado, let's get into it. I love the soundtrack. It's done by Vangelis. I like to just listen to it on its own sometimes when I'm driving in my car. Highly recommend. I really like how our introduction essay is written in past tense, with a kind of clarity that you get whenever you're reading a history textbook. It's written with a tone that sort of implies that all of this is wrong. This was not called execution, it was called retirement. That sentence alone implies that it should be called execution. The novel takes place in 2021, so I'm curious why they just chose to tweak the year a little bit. And the book takes place in San Francisco. The movie takes place in Los Angeles. Another minor difference. I love this opening shot. It's a great introduction into this futuristic world. Replicants, they escape Mars because they're slaves there. They come to Earth to live normal lives, to be like a human. Meanwhile, they're actively being hunted down by the government. They believe replicants to be dangerous because a lot of times they'll kill their masters pretty much to escape, making them dangerous murderers. And we'll see here with Leon, whenever replicants feel like they're being threatened, they're back into a corner, that's whenever he's, giving up this whole disguise, this whole playing dumb, and it's whenever he's gonna murder again. But isn't that something any person can do whenever backed into a corner in the face of survival?
A new life awaits you in the off-world colonies. The chance to begin again in a golden land of opportunity and adventure.
This is another similarity to the book. There's ads on Earth all the time saying, hey, come colonize to Mars. You get a free replicant. Mars is an uninhabitable planet. Humans were never meant to live there, so everyone on Mars is pretty much miserable. But still, they want people on Earth to come to Mars because there's radiation dust everywhere, contaminating people. I've always loved the look of these hover cars.
I don't work here anymore.
This is a bad one. The worst yet. I need the old Blade Runner.
So this is interesting because Rick Deckard in the book, whenever we first meet him, he is still working as a bounty hunter, and he is very enticed by the bounty. He wants that money so he can buy himself a real-life animal because animals are pretty much extinct. But when we're introduced to him in this movie, he's quit. He's no longer working as a bounty hunter. But he's got such a high reputation, they want him on this case. They need him on this case.
No choice, huh?
No choice, pal.
Yeah, that is a really significant change because towards the end of the book, Rick, you're not sure, he's not even sure if he ever wants to be a bounty hunter again. It's kind of up in the air if he's going to actually quit or not. And that's a big character change for him. So I'm curious about their decision to already have him quit, and what was the reason that made him quit in the first place.
What do they want out of the Tyrell Corporation?
Well, you tell me, pal. That's what you're here for.
I love that expression.
The designers reckoned that after a few years, they might develop their own emotional responses. So they built in a fail-safe device.
Which is what?
4-year lifespan.
Interesting. So the 4-year lifespan in the novel is a technological limitation that we have yet to overcome. It's got something to do with cell turnover. The cells can't replicate themselves, and that's why they die and don't live for very long.
Now, there's a Nexus 6 over at the Tyrell Corporation. I want you to go put the machine on it.
And if the machine doesn't work?
Rick is he's going to the Nexus 6 creators to make sure that this new model can be tested so that their replicants, should they escape Mars and come to Earth, can be killed too.
Do you like our owl?
Yay! The owl!
It's artificial?
Of course it is.
That's interesting too. Obviously, things need to be cut down for time in a movie, so a lot gets left out that's in the book. Whenever Deckard is first introduced to the owl, she lies and tells him that the owl is real, and he's so mystified by it because owls are extinct. It's a big social status to have an endangered species in your possession, and it's worth a lot of money. So he believes the owl to be real, and they use the owl as leverage to get Rick Deckard to kind of drop the whole test thing, go home with an owl. They want him to be corrupt, you know, but he doesn't fall for that. And then it is after that he realizes that the owl isn't even a real owl in the first place. And that's the first time in the book that they kind of pull that on us. And it'll happen again and again and again in this story where something he thinks to be real is actually fake, or something that people think is fake actually happens to be real. But that was the first moment where we see that in the story. So it's interesting that that's just a one-line quip of, oh, of course it's not a real owl, erasing that whole scene that I had in my head.
Have you ever retired a human by mistake?
No.
But in your position, that is a risk.
I think they did an excellent job casting Rachel. She's described to have these beautiful black eyes. She has beautiful black eyes in the movie. Couldn't be happy enough.
I want to see it work on a person. I want to see a negative before I provide you with a positive.
On you?
Try her.
Rachel is introduced as the head of the corporation's niece, and it seems to be a spur-of-the-moment thing of, oh, you're testing your Voight Kampf on humans? Why don't you try my niece?
You've got a little boy. He shows you his butterfly.
Such interesting mechanics to this test. I love it.
Suddenly you realize there's a wasp crawling on your arm.
I'd kill it.
You're reading a magazine. You come across a full-page nude photo of a girl.
Is this testing whether I'm a replicant or a lesbian, Mr. Deckard?
All of these testing questions are very faithful to the book.
She's a replicant, isn't she?
How many questions does it usually take to spot one?
I don't get it, Tyrell.
How many questions?
20, 30 cross-referenced.
So Mr. Tyrell here has his own motives. You know, he's always trying to make the best, most human-like replicant. So secretly, he wants to be able to beat the Voight Kampf's test, and he's trying to learn everything he can from Deckard about what exactly it is they're testing. So, Rachel, introduced as a human, failed the Voight Kampf test. She's actually a replicant, but she has memories implanted into her brain, so she's not even aware of the fact that she's a replicant. She thinks she's a human because she has memories. I love the rain in the city. I love it. I want to be there. A scale. I really love how the movie takes this novel and turns it into a film noir style detective mystery.
Did you get your precious photos?
Someone was there.
Roy is the replicant with the biggest personality. He's the boss man. Roy's the one that planned their whole escape mission, this group of replicants. He came up with it. He's the brains of the operation. So they're building him up to be like the big bad of all of them.
Longevity, incept dates.
I don't know such stuff.
Right away, this movie is turning the replicants into these villains of the story, where in the book, it's more like their number one priority when they come to Earth is to stay undercover and just live out their normal lives as whatever identity they choose to be. So they're not gonna just murder people, because that'll blow their cover. They know that whenever they murder somebody, that's kind of like the end of the life that they have been working so hard to build here on Earth.
Print identification. Your floor number, please.
Deckard, 97.
97, thank you.
Another difference, book Deckard has a wife, movie Deckard doesn't.
Remember when you were 6? You and your brother snuck into an empty building through a basement window? You were gonna play doctor? Remember that? You remember the spider that lived in a bush outside your window?
I love this personal detail because whenever the book discusses memory implantations, we don't get the details of what the specific memories were, like we are here. And it makes it more poetic to hear these intimate parts of her childhood be stated like a matter of fact, and then to learn that none of it is real. They're not even your own memories, and a bunch of other robots probably have those same memories as you. It's very emotional. The movies do a really good job of expanding on the memory implant topic. That's what I love about movie adaptations, is they can take ideas from the book that the book didn't really give enough attention to and expand on it. Such a good song. I love the way that they styled Pris in the movie. She's got like a punk rock edge to her. The novel explained that Pris and Rachel are exactly the same model of replicant, so they look exactly the same, and there's hundreds of other replicants that look like them. The movie did away with that whenever they cast two different actresses. But I think that's a cool part of the story I wish they had kept, because it makes Deckard more hesitant to retire Pris, because she looks exactly like Rachel. Yay, Isidore!
What's your name?
Pris.
Mine's J.F. Sebastian.
They changed his name from John Isidore to J.F. Sebastian.
What's your problem?
Methuselah syndrome. My glands, they grow old too fast.
Is that why you're still on Earth?
Yeah. I couldn't pass the medical.
The movie isn't introducing the whole like radioactive concept, but Isidore is a chicken head, which is the derogatory term they call people who fail IQ tests due to being radioactive. So he is isolated from the rest of society. He's the lowest of the low. He's at the bottom of the food chain. Oh, this is a very important shot. I love this shot of the mannequin bodies, because that's something that the sequel takes and expands on. And I just love whenever visual shots make references like that.
I make friends. They're toys. My friends are toys. I make them. It's a hobby. I'm a genetic designer.
Another change that they make to his character is that he has a hobby for making toys, which I freaking love. He doesn't have that in the book, but in the movie, it makes it so beautiful and unique and creepy, because we see all of his little experimental toys, and it's very like Five Nights at Freddy, Chuck E. Cheese, animatronic type of creepy.
They're my friends. I made them.
Those are his creations. It's pure and it's fun. Unicorn. I wonder what the unicorn means. I don't remember that part. I am watching the Final Cut version, and I don't know if I've ever seen the Final Cut version before. So maybe that got cut out in the theatrical release.
And pull back.
Ooh, I love this part. I think about this scene
Stop.
all the time for no reason. It's just very pleasing to me, like in the way ASMR is. Him commanding his computer to come in closer again and again.
Pull back. Stop. Give me a hard copy right there.
Not fish. Snake scale.
Snake.
A fake snake scale. Yeah, that's not in the book. I like seeing him pick up on these clues, and I like feeling like I'm going along and discovering the mystery with him. The book is less mystery-like and more philosophical. Ugh, all of these costumes are fantastic. Props to the costume designer. They did a wonderful job. So many beautiful ladies, but he wants that one beautiful lady. Luba Loof, she's a opera singer, performer in the novel. She's my favorite character in the book because she has the biggest personality.
I'd like to check your dressing room, if I may.
For what?
For holes.
This voice he puts on is so funny, and it's half-assed. I love that top. It's so innovative. So in the novel, Luba Lufe uses her intelligence to try and get out of this situation in every way possible. He gives her the Voight-Kampff test, and when he gets to the more salacious questions, she starts to claim that he's coming on to her, he's being sexually inappropriate, and she needs to call the cops. So she does just that. She calls the cops, and he gets taken in for questioning, and she thinks, whew, he's been taken into custody. I don't have to see him again. I'm clear. I can go back to living my life as this famous opera singer. Deckard also has a lot of admiration for her, and he feels very frustrated with this police department that's taking him in because he's also with the police, right? But they're not listening to him. But anyways, it turns out that that whole other side police department was all replicants, every single one of them. And Luba Lufe knew them. So whenever she calls the police department, she's calling the replicants, right? But he ends up getting out of that situation with another bounty hunter. He gets out and they go back to this art show where Luba Lufe is. And Deckard just wants to question her some more, but the other detective goes ahead and kills her. And that affects Deckard emotionally because he had such an admiration for her. Whenever they're talking, she has this huge charisma. She's very charming and a very beautiful woman. And it's the first time in his whole career and in Rick's whole life that he's ever felt something for a replicant. Felt empathy for a replicant, but it is a huge part thematically to the novel. In this movie, he chases her down and kills her, because that's what he's being hired to do, but it doesn't give us that whole moral struggle with Deckard realizing for the first time that he feels bad. He feels like what he's doing is wrong. I love it whenever a murder scene is artistically shot. This is so beautiful, with the glass and her clear plastic raincoat. Dang. That whole frame just looks like a piece of art. See, that whole killing wasn't that impactful to him. It's another day in the life of a bounty hunter. The novel has Deckard forever changed after he kills Luba Lufe.
That skin job you vacated at the Tyrell Corporation? Rachel disappeared, vanished. Didn't even know she was a replicant.
Our beauty queen.
Leon.
How old am I?
I don't know.
Time to die.
That doesn't happen in the book. Just saying. She really is like a completely different character in the movie versus the book.
What if I go north? Disappear? Would you come after me?
No, I wouldn't.
So she's having such an emotional reaction to finding out that she's not human. She's run away.
You know those files on me? The incept date, the longevity, those things. You saw them?
This is also someone who's coming to terms with their own mortality. Like, everybody knows that they're gonna die, but she's finding out that she's gonna die a lot sooner than she thought, because her lifespan isn't very long at all.
You know that Voight-Kampff test of yours? Did you ever take that test yourself?
I love that. I love how she's poking holes into even his own reality, because the book never questions that. Deckard is beyond, without a doubt, human. They make that very clear. But in the movie universe, you never know. Am I real? Am I not real? And it's become harder and harder for anyone to tell. And the people making you don't want you to be able to tell. And you may be wondering, like, why Deckard? Like, why is she in his apartment? Why does she come to him, this guy that she just met? My interpretation, and what I personally think, is that he's the first person in her whole life who isn't lying to her about who she is. You're not real, you're a replicant, when everybody else in her life is lying to her face. So I feel like that's where she really forms her attachment. That's my justification for it anyway. She feels safe around him for that reason.
I dreamt music.
I remember lessons. I don't know if it's me or Terrell's niece.
You play beautifully.
This is such a sweet romantic scene. I don't know. He is definitely coming on to her, and she's just like trying to be sane. Yeah, here we go. I remember this part.
You kiss me.
I can't rely on...
Say, kiss me.
Kiss me.
I don't know. I think I think it's trying to be romantic, but it's weird.
I want you.
I want you. I want you.
I do think that's romantic. So let's have a moment to discuss the love scene in the novel. In the movie, it's very much him coming on to her, but in the books, she is the one making all the advances. She really wants to go to bed with Deckard. She's like, oh, I'm so pure. Like, I've never done this before. She's drinking. She's getting under the covers and really seducing him. But it isn't until after she agrees to help him that he finally goes through and gives her what she wants, and they make love. Well, that's a big turning point in the novel, because prior to the love scene, the novel has taken all of its time showing us all the ways in which replicants who supposedly don't have empathy, we as a reader feel empathy for them because they're being hunted down, and we're seeing people like Rachel who are so beautiful, and people like Luba Loof who just want to live out their simple lives like anybody does, and what makes them different than us just because they aren't birthed from a vagina. And then after Deckard makes love to Rachel, from there on out, the book turns the tide on us as a reader, and it shows us that, oh, we've come to accept now in our hearts replicants as people worthy of our own empathy. From that point on, the book then shows us the ways in which their brains are different. Like, they don't feel for living animals the way that humans do. They don't think the way that we do. It is just such a pivotal point in the book, and I don't always think that love scenes serve as plot devices, but in the book it does. I really love the love scene in the book. As funny as that sentence is, I really love the love scene in the book because it's one of the few times that we see a woman being the one making all the advances, being the one in power. Whereas, you know, in our patriarchal society, in this Ridley Scott movie, we see the man being the one to make all the moves. And there's completely different motivations in the novel as well, because it's revealed to us after she makes love to Deckard that Rachel, her whole purpose as a replicant is to make bounty hunters empathize for androids. So this is something that Rachel does over and over again to several other bounty hunters before Deckard. She seduces them to bed, she makes them fall in love with her so that they kind of question, oh, if I could fall in love with a replicant, I can't go on and kill a replicant. She is created to be the most desirable woman for the purpose of making those bounty hunters possibly not kill other people like her. You know, she's trying to save lives, save replicant lives. She's really a rebel for that. But let me know what you guys think about the love scene in the book versus the movie, because I think there's a whole conversation to be had there, and I, fresh off the book, am still just wrapping my mind around it. So let me know.
This is the friend I was telling you about. This is my savior, J.F. Sebastian.
Sebastian, you live here all by yourself, do you?
Yes.
So, Isidore / Sebastian, he is so desperate for companionship that he'd do anything for these replicants in his house. He doesn't realize they're replicants. But it's a very one-sided relationship. The replicants are just using him to lay low and undercover. And in the book, Isidore realizes that. He knows that they're using him, but he doesn't care because true companionship gives him a purpose like he's never had.
Dr. Terrell, he's a genius. He designed you.
Maybe he could help.
So they're trying to use Sebastian to get to Tyrell because they want to live longer. Chris doesn't have that long to live. Wow. The short lifespans is something they talk about in the book, but it's not something that the replicants seem to be dreading. I think if anything, they just want to live their lives and not be hunted. They don't care if they live 4 years. Or we never get to know if they care or not. Or can they care because they're replicants and they don't have empathy, supposedly.
I want more life, Father.
To make an alteration in the evolvement of an organic life system is fatal. The coding sequence cannot be revised once it's been established.
Gay? Murder. Dang it. Mr. Rosing does not get murdered by Roy in the book. He kind of is just in that one testing scene and then disappears as a character. That's fascinating that we get to see his demise. His creation is ultimately what kills him. I really like this scene because Pris chooses to hide amongst the toys. She has that whole dolled up makeup and it makes her blend right in. And I also love that she hides underneath a veil. But it's a callback to this iconic movie with Catherine Deneuve in it. Just know. It becomes like a trope of like hiding amongst dolls. You'll see this in a lot of horror movies. Anyways, this movie does it good. It's so creepy. I love all the toys. And she blends right in. She looks just like one of the freaking toys in here. And in a way, she kind of is, because she's a female replicant. Just saying. Yes! I love this. Crush him between your thighs. Kill him that way. It's a beautiful way to kill somebody. I doubt he would mind if that's how he goes down. Dang. She really twisting him around. Wow, that is a very seductive attack. Kind of like it. Ugh, this is so creepy. In this Philip K. Dick's version, she just gets shot and that's that, you know? Quick, easy, painless. But not so easy and painless. Killing Pris is actually the hardest kill for him personally because Pris is the exact same body as Rachel, who he loves. Same thing with this kill scene. The movie makes it a lot more interesting, a lot more dramatic. The novel, he just shows up and shoots him. He opens the door to Deckard, he gets killed, that's how it ends. But in the movie, we get this whole final chase where he's sneaking around. Deckard feels like he's being hunted. This is so sad because this is the movie's way of saying, look, replicants, they feel love. He loved Pris. Oh, I love that touch of her makeup being on his face. That's such beautiful acting right there.
I can see you.
This is awesome. I love how creepy he's being. It seems like he no longer even cares about killing Roy at this point. Like, Deckard just wants to get out alive. Roy has just lost it because he has nothing else to lose. All of his friends have been killed. His lover's been killed. You gotta be strong to dangle like that. I know I couldn't. I'd be slipping. It's raining. Are you kidding me? This is the pivotal moment. He could let Deckard fall and he didn't even have to do the murdering, but instead, Roy chooses to lift him up. Oh, he's holding the dove still.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
This is my favorite part of the whole movie. And this does not happen in the book. None of this is in the book. It's just so beautiful, though.
All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain.
It's poetry. Deckard's so confused. He's like, what? I thought you saved me so you could kill me, but you just saved me so you could tell me how you truly feel? And that is so beautiful because it was his natural time. And he's seen such beauty in the world. But, I mean, just think about how tainted that beauty is whenever you're, like, hyper-vigilant and in constant fear of being murdered all the time. See, in the book, he chooses to kill Roy and every replicant that he was assigned. That's so interesting that they take away that final blow. Instead, he sees a replicant reach its natural end.
It's too bad she won't live. But then again, who does?
Do you love me?
I love you.
Do you trust me?
I trust you.
And after that harrowing experience of seeing Roy die, I mean, he comes home to this woman he now newly loves, and he realizes she doesn't have that long to live either. That's what that other guy pointed out to him. It's kind of a low blow, if you ask me. Don't joke around about that, dude. Oh, look, he's been there. That's a clue. That other detective's been folding little miniature origamis this whole time. It's the unicorn. Remember when he had a vision about a unicorn earlier?
It's too bad she won't live. But then again, who does?
Does that mean that Rachel is a unicorn? She's like a special replicant that lives forever? Wow, that's really got me thinking. So I've liked this movie well before I've read the book. I really like the visuals of this movie, and I love the mystery. I love movies that just give me that feeling where I'm transported into a different time and place. And this movie successfully does that with the city and the hover cars and the rain and all the neon lights and the costumes. I do feel transported when I watch this movie. The book and the movie have two different stories to tell ultimately. The novel is more philosophical. It questions what does it mean to be human. It talks about the human condition in a dystopian world. The movie is more focused on telling an atmospheric, neo-noir detective cop romance. And I love it for that. I love both of them for what they are. The movie, while it does touch on all of those philosophical points the book brings up, the movie just doesn't have time to delve into it, and so it kind of gets watered down. All that being said, I really like the personal changes that the movie makes to the universe, the Blade Runner universe. I love how they expand upon the memory implant ideas. And I love how they expand on every single character questioning whether they're a replicant or not. Like whenever Rachel asks Deckard if he's ever taken the Voight-Kampff test, that can be seen as a throwaway line in your first viewing. But if you see the sequel expands upon that idea. There's a few major differences that the movie doesn't even bother to include, but one outrageous difference that I just really quickly want to talk about is Mercerism, which in the Blade Runner universe, Mercerism is sort of like a religion. Mercer's very much like a Jesus Messiah figure. Actually, it's a reference to Sisyphus. That's pretty much exactly what Mercer is and does. He is like a simulation. It's called an empathy box. You plug in, you see Mercer, you fuse with every other person who's online fusing with Mercer at the time. Everyone at that time who's using the empathy box is fused with everyone else. So if you go in feeling happy, you share your happiness with everyone, and if they're sad, they feel happy. But if you go in feeling sad, the people who are happy feel your sorrow, and you just leave feeling more connected with people as you're all watching Mercer push the boulder up the hill. And meanwhile, there's these onlookers, the killers, who are throwing rocks at him. And he gets cut up by all these rocks, and if you're fused with him at the same time, you will also get hit by a rock and physically bleed in that moment. It's very interesting, and then in the book, there goes on to be this whole expose about how Mercer is a fraud. It's like this big Hollywood scam pretty much, where he's on a soundstage, he's an actor portraying somebody. But ultimately, even after everyone in the world finds out that Mercer is a fake, he's not a real person the way they thought he was, a real messiah for them, they still all have that belief because it connects them and it's just something to believe in, and he's there for them whenever they're going through hard times. Deckard, throughout his journey, killing replicants and questioning his own morality, he realizes along the way, because he kind of is sometimes fusing with Mercer or having hallucinations about him, it's unclear, but he realizes that him being a bounty hunter means that in life, he, in the Mercerism of it all, instead of him being Mercer pushing that rock up the boulder, he's the killers throwing rocks at Mercer all the while. He's the one that's making life harder for other people. And he has a whole conversation with Mercer where Mercer's like, yeah, you are the bad guy in this situation, but hey, buddy, that's life. Like, we all go against our own morals sometimes, and sometimes being the killer is your role to play. So after Deckard kills everyone, he kind of has like this psychological breakdown, and that's whenever he realizes, like, I don't want to be the killer anymore. Like, I want to be the one like pushing the rock up the hill. And he just goes home to his wife, and he finds this toad on the way home, which he thinks to be a real human toad, even though toads are extinct. He thinks that he just stumbled across a toad. So he brings it home to his wife, like, look, I found a real toad. Is making him happy, even though he's like, it's like you're going through a psychological breakdown and this is like the one piece of sanity you can find. He's like, I can't believe I just found this toad. And his wife is looking at it and she finds a control panel. She realizes, honey, it's not a real toad. And she feels bad. She's like, oh God, I shouldn't have even told him it was fake. Like, I don't want to disappoint him, but it doesn't really matter to Deckard at that point. After everything he had been through that whole day, he's like, I don't even care that it's not real. And then he just goes to bed. But they don't talk about mercerism at all, and I just think that's so interesting. And, you know, if we had not that I want one, but, you know, the way that Dune got remade, if we had a new remake of Blade Runner, the original one, but it's like 3-4 hours long, they would have mercerism, and it would be so good. So the better for it. Also, I would have loved to see more of the animal symbolism. I love that they included the owl scene and they added snakes. The movie does say how rare real life animals are, and every single animal we actually see in this movie, I think, is a fake. In the book, animals are so important. Sort of like in a world where, you know, empathy is so important, it's seen as like normal and weird if you don't own an animal. And if you have a real animal, ooh, you're cool. If it's a super rare animal, you're even cooler. And those are expensive too. But the everyday working person can't afford a real animal, so they have robot animals. The robot animals are made to be so realistic looking. It's a replicant, but in an animal form. But they're made to be so realistic so that your neighbors don't know that you have a fake animal instead of a real animal. That's the whole beauty about owning an animal too, is as a pet owner, you're very aware of their lifespan. And I loved seeing that in the book, because before we meet Deckard, he had already prior owned a real life sheep that died, and that really affected him and his wife, and they couldn't afford another real life animal, so they got an electric sheep. But he doesn't care about his electric sheep the way he cared about his real life sheep. He's like, it does not compare. And then he finally, after his killing his first 2 replicants, he buys a goat, a real life goat, and he's so happy about having a real animal, and it's like expensive. He spends all of his bounty money on this real life goat, and his wife is happy that she has a goat to take care of now. It's a sign to him that he's moving in the right direction by killing these replicants. But Rachel, like I said earlier, she goes and she pushes his goat off the side of the building, murdering the goat. His wife witnesses it happen, and she's traumatized. They're both so sad. I don't know. I'm rambling at this point. I could go on and on and on, but it's getting late, so I'm gonna stop myself now. Sorry about it. The conversation isn't over though, so don't fret. I still need to watch Blade Runner 2049 with you guys. So we'll continue this conversation then. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. I want to take a moment to talk about my Patreon. My patrons are the best and I love them. This is a Patreon shout out for you. Thank you for supporting me. I actually couldn't do it without you. If you guys are watching and you aren't a Patreon member, like, you should check it out. I post videos early there. I post other bonus content like camcorder footage. It's cute. If you want to support me, that's a great place to do it. I think I'm ready to go now. Until next time, Camcorder Cameron signing out.